Okay, then recording शुरू है sir. Okay, so welcome to Eco 501 Section 1, Week 6. Okay, this week what we're going to do, okay, the class will be divided into three parts. Number one, part one will be how a market is defined. Number two, what determines power of firms in markets. So these part one and part two, we are doing just as a introduction for the course after the midterm, which is next week. And at the end, second half of the class in part three, I will be looking at so the topics of the midterm, which means basically topics from week 2, 3, 4, 5. This is week 6. So we have done basically 4 weeks of class. Week 2, 3, 4, and 5. We'll be looking at all the topics then. Does anybody have any questions before we start?
Sir, 30 March. Sir, government holiday, sir.
Teacher government holiday.
So আমাদের
হ্যাঁ
স্যার সবে বরাতের বন্ধ তো স্যার গভর্নমেন্ট হলিডে
আচ্ছা এখন ঘটনাটা হচ্ছে সবে বরাতের বন্ধটা হচ্ছে it's subject to sighting of the moon, right? So let it be confirmed first, then I'll make a decision. Okay?
So আমাদের
হ্যাঁ বলো হ্যাঁ
বাংলাদেশ মানে এটা কনফার্ম হয়ে গেছে
স্যার এটা কনফার্ম হয়ে গেছে
হ্যাঁ let it be confirmed first. Is it confirmed? Is the Shoaib Barat holiday on 30 March confirmed?
মেসেজ করেছিলাম
Okay, let me find out, and based if it is confirmed, because these are subject to sighting of the moon. So we'll stick to 30 March. Okay, and even if it is on 30 March, I'll do something else. Okay. All right.
Okay, sir.
But thanks for reminding.
Okay, sir.
I didn't notice it myself either. Okay, so does anybody have any questions before we start? Any question before we start? Like two people had regarding Shoaib Barat. Okay, then I'll start. Okay, so in the first part, we are just going to look at an introduction to markets. And the reference is McGuigan 339 to 350. If you look at your Facebook group, the specific chapters have been uploaded there. So you can download from there. Okay, first of all, how is the market defined? So far, what we have done, we have just given a general description that the market is an institutional arrangement where buyers and sellers meet to transact a good or service. Okay, now today what we will do, we will divide this definition into two parts. Number one, we will divide it into commodity markets and matching markets. Commodity markets are markets where buyers and sellers meet to transact a standardized good. I'll explain standardized later. But the thing is, when we transact a standardized good, as a seller, I don't need to know any special features of the buyer. The buyer also doesn't need to know any features of the seller. In a matching market, buyers need to know specific characteristics of the sellers. Sellers also need to know specific characteristics of the buyers. So up until now, we have defined markets as commodity markets. Let me give an example. For example, if I want to buy a mobile phone, say the latest Samsung or the latest whatever, from say an authorized dealer, do I need to know the seller personally? Do I need to know the seller?
No.
Does the seller need to know me?
No, sir. No, sir.
So what happens is we are transacting a good where I know the quality of the good, the performance of the good. The seller also knows that he doesn't need to know me the buyer. For example, if we want to buy some rice, so a particular brand of rice, okay, a particular type, I don't need to know the quality of the farmer. The farmer doesn't need to know me. We just come meet in an institutional arrangement and we transact a standardized good. This is commodity markets. Let me give you an example of matching markets. If I want a haircut, will prices dictate the how much haircuts I will get in a certain period of time? If I want a haircut, do I need to know the barber?
No, sir. No, sir.
If I need a haircut, do I need to know the barber?
Yes. Depends, sir.
No,
It depends, sir, actually.
No, sir.
You don't need to know the barber?
No, sir.
Who said so?
Sir, according to me, it depends.
For example, the previous
No, sir. No,
you have to know.
sir.
Okay, let me phrase it in a different way. We know that if the price of something increases,
Thanks.
okay, we demand less. When the price of something falls, we demand more. Now, when I want to go and have a haircut, there are 4 barbers in a shop. Will all the 4 give me the same haircut? Will all the 4 give me the same haircut? Will 4 barbers in a shop give me the same haircut? একই haircut দিবে আমাকে? Okay, there's 4 people, A, B, C, and D, 4 barbers in a barber shop. I just randomly go and ask anybody to come and cut my hair. Or I will want to know who is the better barber.
Who is a better barber?
So it's not so the barbers who are cutting the hair in the barber shop, they are not giving me a standardized haircut. But if I want to buy a mobile phone, I just go and say I want this model of this company, and then they just bring it out in a box. I come back home. That's it. But when I want to buy get a haircut from a barber, 4 barbers will cut my hair in 4 different ways. So I need to know some specific characteristics of the seller, the person who's going to give me the haircut. So prices are not going to work. Let me give you another example. For example, your Brack University, they want to hire somebody. Okay, whether that's a faculty or whether that's a staff, can they just raise the salary and get a better person? Will prices work? Because we've been trained to say learn that if the price goes up, there will be less supply. If the price goes down, there will be more supply. But when Brack University wants to hire somebody, can Brack University get somebody very good by offering a very high salary? Can automatically can Brack University get somebody?
No, sir. I think
It can't. So you see, Brack University has to know certain characteristics of the person who's applying. What is the person's previous history, how good he or she was in her previous workplace, etc., etc. Then Brack University is going to hire that person. The person who's going to work for Brack University, they will also try to find out certain characteristics of the employer. Is the employer fair? Is it what type of securities will I get? How long will it take for me to get a new promotion, etc. So over there, Brack University and that applicant, they are not transacting a standardized good like we buy a mobile phone. Is it clear now?
Sir, can I ask a question?
Sure.
when we are looking for service, in that case, we have to know the characteristic of the service giver person, right?
Yes, because for example, if I want to hire somebody to do my home
service and server.
Yes, we have to know some certain characteristics. This is matching market. Okay, let me give you another example.
Yes, sir.
You know the Ghotok people, the Ghotoks? There are farms in Dhaka city that find matches for men and women to marry, right? Can you will any prospective bride or groom enter this market and just go and randomly choose somebody? Saidur, yes. Saidur, any problem?
Yes, sir.
Any problem, Saidur?
স্যার আপনার কথা শোনা যাচ্ছে না
ও শুনতে পাচ্ছেন না আচ্ছা
আসে নাকি?
give me 1 minute.
স্যার
Hello, sir.
Sir,
আপনার
wait,
কথা
wait.
শোনা
We are not
যাচ্ছে
able
না
to.
Okay, wait. I'll connect my headphone then. Okay, let me put the headphone on. Oh, that's why you guys are not communicating. Just a second, please. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Much
Yes,
better,
sir.
much better than before.
Better.
Okay, love.
Yes, sir. Loud.
Okay, বোঝা গেছে আমার
Yes,
Yes, sir.
এতদিন আমি
Better.
Okay,
Sir,
lovely.
loud.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is we have Ghotok farms in Dhaka city that find matches for
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Loud.
for marriage market. Okay, now if will a girl enter this market and just randomly choose a boy and marry, or vice versa?
No, sir.
They will never do that. The boy needs to know certain characteristics of the girl. The girl also needs to know certain characteristics of the boy. So in these markets are, and for example, you know, donor markets, for example, kidney market for kidneys. You know, people sell kidneys. Have you heard of it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
I've heard.
Yes, sir. Yes. sir.
Okay.
They
Iran,
donate,
no,
donate organs.
they also donate, but Iran is the only country in the world that
Yes,
has
sir.
a legal kidney selling market. But if I need a kidney, can I go to the kidney hospital and just buy a kidney and come back home?
no, sir.
No.
Yes,
sir.
You cannot do that. So in these type of markets, we are not transacting.
No, sir.
Okay, we are not transacting a standardized commodity. The buyer and the seller have to match
No, sir.
in some way. Okay, so what we are going to do in this second part of the course, we have focused on commodity markets. In the second part of the course, after some time, we're going to focus on matching markets. We will start with commodity markets, then move on to matching markets. Now, the next question is that the markets will be defined by number of sellers. Okay. When we talk about market power, then we talk about two things. If we define the market by sellers, how much selling power do the sellers have, the firms? If we define the market by buyers, the number of buyers in the market, then we look at how much buying power a particular buyer has. So we are not going to complicate the thing. We're going to keep it simple. Markets by definition are going to be defined as number of sellers. Okay, so if we go back again. So if there is one seller, it's monopoly. You know, you have heard this term, right?
Yes, sir.
If there is if there are two people, two sellers in the market, for example, Boeing and Airbus, then we have a duopoly. Or in the global beverage market, we have Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola. So and if there are few sellers, we call it oligopoly. So number one, we will start with commodity markets, then look at monopoly, duopoly, oligopoly. Then we will go into matching markets, where certain characteristics have to match, otherwise a transaction cannot be made. Okay. Now, the topic 2 was what determines powers of firms. What do we mean by firms? The selling power or the buying power? When we talk about the power of firms in a market, what are we referring to? Are we referring to selling power or buying power?
Selling powers.
Selling.
Correct. We're referring to selling power because we have defined the market by the number of sellers. Now, thus, we bring back this very old example that we've used many times. সেটা হচ্ছে আমাদের পাড়ার মুদির দোকান, the neighborhood grocery shop. There are hundreds and thousands of grocery shops in Dhaka city. So if we define the market as entire Dhaka city, then no single grocery shop can influence the market outcome. They have no kind of monopoly power. But if we define the grocery shop as our neighborhood grocery shop, then it enjoys one very big market power, and that is geographical location. How? Will you go to another neighborhood and buy a pack of cereal, or will you buy it from your own neighborhood?
Sir, own
From
neighbor.
all neighborhood.
So in every neighborhood, the grocery shops enjoy a geographical monopoly power. So in their relevant market, because their relevant market is in the neighborhood, they enjoy a particular market power. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the thing is that what we are going to do once we move from commodity markets, how do we define a relevant market? What are the factors? In this particular example, I have given a geographical factor as an example, but the thing is, there will be more examples. Second thing is, how concentrated is a market? Now, those of you who are not in Dhaka, don't stay in Dhaka. There's a place in Dhaka called Shatmajid Road. And in this Shatmajid Road, we have 3 superstores. In the south, we have Agora. In the middle, we have Unimart. And at the end of the road, we have Kaji's Mina Bazar. All these are super grocery shops. Okay. Now, if we look at entire Dhanmondi, this market is divided into 2 parts. We have the 3 very big grocery shops, and we have many small grocery shops. Isn't that true for Shatmajid Road area? Those who are familiar with Dhaka?
Yes, sir.
We have Agora with Rifle Square. Then we have in the middle we have Unimart, and at the top of the road on the northern part we have Mina Bazar. But there are other superstores, other semi-superstores in the entire Dhanmondi area. So this type of market is divided into 2 parts. Number 1, how much of the total sales occur in the largest 4 farms? Somebody may ask a question, why is it 4 farms? Can't it be 3? Can't it be 5? The number of 4 farms comes from the American definition. So that's why we used 4. But the example that I'm giving, we have 3 large superstores. So if we find a market that say 80% of the total market share is concentrated in 3 or 4 large farms, and say another 20% is scattered in very small fringe farms, we call that a concentrated market. This type of market we will be looking at under the name of monopolistic competition. Has anybody heard the term monopolistic competition? Has anybody heard the term monopolistic competition? শুনতে পাচ্ছেন আমাকে? Can you guys hear me? Has anybody heard the term monopolistic competition? Has anybody heard the term monopolistic competition? Yes or no?
No, sir.
Okay, lovely. Then even if you haven't, look at the term. This
Mike is
কি কোনো মানে শুনতে কি অসুবিধা হচ্ছে? Are you guys having trouble? Are you still having trouble hearing me?
Hello, sir. We can.
You can't
Yes,
hear
sir.
me. Can you hear me or not?
What do you what do you call it? Is
sir.
কথা শোনা যাচ্ছে কিছু।
Oh. Okay, then wait.
শোনা I can hear you.
Okay, wait.
শোনা যাচ্ছে না।
Sir, barbar disconnect.
Okay. I'm disconnecting from my PC and restarting. Please rejoin in a few minutes. Is that okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Let's see how, because entire Dhaka city is having trouble now. So let me end meeting.